Today I am asking ChatGPT to generate crochet patterns, then making them to see if they are legit. I am a pattern writer myself, it's part of how I make a living. So let's see today if AI has the potential to steal my side hustle. I'm gonna be rating the patterns kind of on two and a half things. The first one is it user-friendly? So like, does it make sense? Would a beginner be able to use this pattern? The second one is, does the project look good? Is it like an actual coherent piece of work? So I usually vehemently avoid using ChatGPT, and I've never used it for recreational or creative purposes, so I don't have too many expectations. I wonder if it'll even give me crochet language. I want to use it sparingly, so I'm only going to give it 3 prompts. For the first prompt, I'm going to ask it to write me a pattern for a granny square. Then I'm going to ask it to write me a pattern for an amigurumi animal. I haven't decided which one. And finally, I'm going to ask it to generate me a completely random surprise pattern without telling me what it is, and I'm going to make it and try and guess what it is. Granny squares are pretty prevalent on the internet. There's a lot of sources that ChatGPT could scrape from. I'm actually quite hopeful that it's going to provide me with a legitimate pattern. As for the amigurumi, not so much. I somehow doubt that AI will take into account the number of stitches in each previous round, or even have like coherent rounds that end on the same stitch. I'm interested in seeing whether it can actually make a substantial shape in the round that isn't just a sphere. Then again, ChatGPT is really good at writing code, which does require it taking into account what it wrote in the previous line of code in order for it to work. The third prompt is a total wild card. I have no idea what it's going to get me, but we'll see. Just start with the granny square. Write me a crochet pattern for a granny square. Here's a simple crochet for classic granny square. Okay, so it's actually given me a whole list of materials and abbreviations, and it looks legit, so I'm excited to try this. Now let's figure out what we want it to do for the amigurumi. We could do a dog or bear. Let's do a bear. Write me an amigurumi pattern for a crochet bear. It even tells you the approximate size and the skill level. So it actually gives you a stitch count at the end of every round. So it looks like it does take into account the stitches from the previous one. We've got head, body, ears, arms, and legs. Oh, and muzzle and tail. Okay, let's give it the final prompt. Write me a surprise crochet pattern without telling me what it is. So it looks like it's given me another amigurumi pattern. Want a hint? It's small, cute, and often seen in pairs. Okay, this is very exciting, and I'm slightly intimidated. But let's go ahead and get started with the granny square. Okay, so I got my materials for the granny square. I have some worsted weight yarn, and then I have my crochet hook. It says 5mm is recommended, but I have 4mm. I have my scissors, and I have a yarn needle. I'm scared. I don't know why, I'm scared. Okay, we're gonna do a magic ring or chain 4 and slip stitch. So it has moderations. I'm gonna do a magic ring, chain 3, repeat 3 more times. Okay, so it gives me like a step and then it tells me to repeat 3 more times. I don't know if that means to do the step and then repeat it 3 more times, or just repeat that one step 3 times. It does say 3 more, but in the next step it says 4 clusters of 3 double crochet. I'm just gonna do it 3 times. Okay, and that's the first round finished. So we actually do have, as promised, 4 clusters of 3 double crochet. Slip stitch into the next 2 double crochet and into the chain 2 corner space. Wait. Slip stitch, I guess it just wants me to start in one of the corners, which I don't really understand because we finished off in a previous corner. And then it just tells you to repeat in each corner. Slip stitching into the beginning chain 3. Looks like a granny square. Round 3 and beyond. Yeah, it's doing that thing again where it wants me to slip stitch until I'm at the next corner. And then it kind of just gives you instructions for what to do in every corner space and in every space in between the clusters. So from here on out, you're kind of just left to your own devices, and then you can build up as much as you want. I think granny squares is like one of the things you learn early on in your crochet journey. It's not super beginner friendly. For instance, like it just says chain 1 space, the gap that's in between the double crochet clusters. I think as a beginner, that's something that you wouldn't really be sure what it's talking about, and it would be very easy to work into the stitch of the chain 1. That would be something that I would have liked to see instructions clarify. I mean, I do hope that as a beginner crocheter, you're not immediately going to ChatGPT. I'm just being nitpicky. So far, I'm very impressed. I'm at the end of round 3, and the final step kind of just says continue this pattern, increasing the number of side clusters as the square grows. Okay, but I've done the 3 rounds and we have a legitimate granny square. Okay, I'm not gonna finish off and weave in just yet. I'm gonna move on to the next pattern, which is the crochet bear plushie, and then we're gonna do a final review of all the patterns at the end of this video. Okay, so I've got purple for the main bear, and then we've got like this beige off-white tan color for the nose slash muzzle. Crochet hook, we actually have the correct size this time. It says 3.5 or 4mm. I have 4mm. I've got my safety eyes. Stuffing, I will grab later. Stitch markers. We've got increases and decreases this time. And it also has an abbreviation for fastening off, which wasn't in the previous pattern. And we're gonna start with the head and body. It doesn't tell you where to mark your stitches or when to close the magic ring. I'm just gonna be putting my stitch marker at the first stitch of each round. First 2 rounds done, so far so good. Round 3 is done. This is very nostalgic for me because I haven't made anything amigurumi in quite a while, apart from my own patterns, but when I make my own patterns, it doesn't really feel like I'm crocheting, if that makes sense. I'm always kind of like troubleshooting, but now I'm kind of just making a pattern recreationally. Okay, I've reached the end of round 5. For round 6 to 12, I just have to single crochet all around. I'll check back with you guys once I'm at the end of round 12. So far so good, everything's adding up. The stitch count is correct and the formatting is fine. My only concern right now, it is very spherical, and I'm kind of concerned the final bear is gonna be like a snowman bear. And if that's the case, I guess I would be disappointed but not surprised. We are going to start decreasing. Now it doesn't say what kind of decrease, so I'm just gonna do invisible decreases, which is where you just pick up the front loop rather than the entire stitch. Non-AI generated crochet patterns don't specify how to decrease either. I think the better ones always do. I did a really good pattern once that actually told you whenever you decrease, you have to like pull tight, otherwise the decrease is gonna be more visible. Little details like that, like little disclaimers, it's very human. It's not something that I expect AI to do, but it's another reason why I don't like AI. Step 17 is done, and we have one more round of decreases, and then we're going to place the safety eyes, so that's exciting. And we're going to place them between rounds 10 and 11, 5 to 6 stitches apart. Let's do 5 stitches. So we have 3 more rounds. Okay, I just saw something confusing, but I'll tell you about it when we get there. I think I'm about to encounter some trouble. It says to stuff firmly before closing, but the hole, I can barely fit my finger through. Ideally, it would have told me to gradually start stuffing a few rounds ago. Now we have to stuff it into this tiny little hole. So I'm not actually gonna be using stuffing because I have a lot of scrap yarn and I don't want to just throw it away because it's wasteful. So I'm gonna be using this as stuffing. So it's looking like that. I don't think I'm gonna stuff it any further. Any more yarn and it's gonna start poking through the stitches. I am confused because the final step for this portion says slip stitch to close, finish off and weave in the end. Which, first of all, it doesn't tell you where to slip stitch. Like, I don't know whether it's just into the next stitch or like you want to slip stitch across the circle to close the circle. But then if you go to the next section, it says continue from head, no need to cut yarn if working in one piece. But you just told me to finish off and weave in. Also, this next section says body, but the previous section said head and body. And right now I just have a head. What I'm gonna do is just slip stitch into the next stitch, and then I'm going to finish this off. The last round of this head had 6 stitches, right? But then the first step of the next portion, which is allegedly something that you can continue from the head, telling you to single crochet all around for a total of 12 stitches, which is not possible unless I did increases all around. I'm gonna have to like modify this. I'm just gonna make a foundation chain of 12 and then close it to make it in the round. As of now, the pattern is broken. And I think actually because I'm like doing these as 2 separate pieces, I'm gonna have to attach them at some point. So I'm gonna make like a really long tail so I can use it to sew the 2 pieces on later. Which again, if this pattern were accurate, that would have been, you know, something that it would ideally mention. We've got 12 stitches. I'm going to slip stitch into the first one to make it a circle. And then I'm just gonna single crochet all around from there. So I guess that's my round of 12. Another thing I'm seeing is the body smaller than the head. I wonder if that's like intentional to make it like have this like cute bobblehead appearance, or if it's because the different sections are not taking each other into account, so the sizing is all over the place. The pattern for the section also looks a lot like the pattern for the head, so it looks like it's just gonna be another sphere. But I don't want to speak too soon. Okay, I've just done round 3 and it's already like the max circumference for the body. For rounds 4 to 8, I just have to single crochet all around. I went ahead and finished the decreases as well. As I suspected, it's just a circle. What's interesting though is whereas the previous section told me slip stitch to close and then finish off and weave in the end, here it's saying finish off, sew the hole closed, and weave in the end. Now I'm just gonna stuff. And I guess it's gonna go on the head like that. I'm just skimming through the rest of the pattern, and the stitch counts are different. Like obviously it's like amigurumi, which is crochet in the round, where you're like literally making a round shape. But good patterns have like modifications. Like some areas will be flatter, some areas will be taller, and that's how you get the shape that resembles like a cat or this or that. There's this one pattern, for instance, that I bought from Etsy. I'll put it on the screen. I don't remember what it's called. It's like this mushroom fae cat, and the way that the pattern like builds up, it actually gives the shape of like cat legs, and it's like, it's really cool. When you compare this to that, this is pathetic. Sometimes it says leave a long tail for sewing, other times it doesn't. For the arms it says lightly stuff, and then for the legs it says stuff lightly. It's not incorrect, but inconsistencies in the language, in my books, that lowers the quality of it. I will meet you back when I have all the pieces finished, and then we'll do the final touches and then assemble everything. In the meantime, let's talk a little bit about why I'm actually making this video. As you can probably gather, I'm not exactly a big fan of AI. This video idea actually comes from a place of anger and frustration. Since its early days, it's stolen from artists, and now we've reached a point where it's pervaded everyday life in ways that I personally don't think are helpful or productive. I won't argue that AI has made a lot of progress in the industries of healthcare, for instance, and tech. I'm talking specifically about AI use for recreation and education. Within that context, I'm really tired of seeing it being used as a crux for things that should not require its use. Writing an essay, completing homework, making a social media post. While I do admit that in times of desperation and curiosity, I have consulted ChatGPT, its responses have never given me anything substantial that I actually ended up applying in my work. In my personal opinion, it's mediocre at best. And the way that I see people marvel and lean on such mediocrity is honestly concerning. As an artist, I feel like our creativity and our literacy has gone downhill. Those things I just mentioned in itself are sad, but lest we forget, there is an environmental and humanitarian tax every time we enter something into an AI chat or generator or whatever. AI runs on a huge energy footprint and labor exploitation. For that reason, AI is not our friend. It is not a feminist. I don't think something with such a huge tax should be used like a toy the way it is. We've become so far removed that somehow we prioritize seeing what we look like in a different body type or as a Nintendo character as more important than real people in the global south. And as you can tell from this video, it's probably going to be a while before ChatGPT takes over the jobs of crochet designers. But should that day ever come, I hope that you, dear viewer, have it in you to continue supporting real artists who work really hard to make their creative visions come into reality rather than artificial intelligence. I hope we can all be more aware about our AI use and do what's within our ability to reduce it. That's all I wanted to say. Let's go back to the video. I spent last evening finishing all the appendages. Pretty much exactly what I expected. It's just sphere variations. So we've got half spheres, we've got elongated spheres. Can't really expect more because that's quite typical of amigurumi appendages, especially the like cutesy animal ones, because they're gonna have rounded limbs to make them look cuter. So we've got the legs here, 2 ovals, got some slightly longer ovals for the arms. These are the ears, they're just 2 half spheres, and then the snout and the tail, which were actually exactly the same. I opted for like this yellow instead of the beige because I think it contrasts the purple a bit better. I guess we can start by sewing the body to the head. If I were making a crochet pattern, I would do my best to minimize sewing. I think the arms and legs could have been something that could have just like crocheted on, attaching with single crochet stitches. Another thing about the instructions is it kind of just says to sew it on, but it doesn't tell you exactly where. Like for the attachment of the safety eyes, it told you exactly which row and how many stitches apart. Okay, I've attached the body kind of. For the ears, it says flatten and sew to the top sides of the head. I'm pretty sure that means you like fold it in half. When I was making the body and the head yesterday, I was low-key thinking like, I haven't made amigurumi in so long, I'm having so much fun and I should do this a lot more. But now I remember why I haven't done it in so long, and it's because of all the goddamn sewing. And also making the appendages is very repetitive. I think the end products look cute, but it's just such a pain in the ass trying to get there. I think the whole point of crochet is to actually like enjoy the process, so that defeats the whole purpose. I'm on the second ear now. It's not gonna be perfectly symmetrical, it's gonna be a little bit wonky. Let's do arms next. I have not stuffed these. Luckily, we have new tails from the sewing that I just did, so I'm just gonna put those in. Now the body is so small and round, it's really difficult to sew to the sides. I'm gonna do it right at the intersection between the head and the body. I've done the arms. They are very lopsided. It looks like he's like reaching for something. Legs next. It says sew to the bottom of the body, which is like down here. I was thinking to sew them to the front of the body so it looks like he's sitting, but now when I align it, his body is so small, it kind of just looks awkward, so I guess I will have to sew them to the bottom. I just realized I forgot to stuff the other arm. I'm gonna stuff both of these right now so I don't forget. The legs are gonna be like splaying out to the side. Right, the legs are done. They're on very wonky, but that's okay. I am going to do the muzzle next. I don't have embroidery thread. I am just gonna use some black yarn. I'm just gonna choose a stitch that's along the magic circle, and I'm just gonna thread my yarn through it a lot of times. Okay, I think that's pretty good for nose. I'm gonna crochet the muzzle and then the tail off camera. I'm gonna meet you at the end of this video. Let's move on to the final crochet pattern, which was the surprise one. We've got some new yarn. I'm going with this reddish brown crochet hook, same as usual. It says 4 or 5 millimeters, so I'm going again with my 4 millimeter. Stuffing, I think I'm just gonna use a scrap yarn from the previous project, and of course the yarn needle and scissors. Unfortunately, this is gonna be amigurumi again. I know I said it could generate me anything, but I'm just like a little fed up with making circles over and over. I am genuinely curious to see what it's gonna be and whether I'm gonna be able to decipher what it is. It tells me like halfway through the first part, pause here and look at your shape. Do you have a guess yet? But from what I can gather from just looking at the pattern, it's gonna be a sphere again. There is literally nothing to see here. I'm just making another circle. So I'm gonna meet you at the midway point where it says pause here and look at your shape. Okay, I've just finished round 8, which is the halfway mark of part 1. Pause here and look at your shape. Are you kidding me? It's certainly flatter than what I've been doing so far. I'm just gonna continue now. It's actually telling me to stuff the project before the hole gets too small. And then it says again, slip stitch to close. I'm just gonna do what I did before and just like slip stitch into the next stitch and then use my needle to sew it shut. It kind of looks like a Hershey's Kiss. What is this? I want to move on to the next step already because I'm really curious now. It looks like, okay, it says make 2 and it's just like 2 circles. And then it says embroider a small face. I'm picturing this and then 2 like larger circles on the side. Let's just move on to part 2. Okay guys, I'm just gonna do this off camera. It's a circle. There's nothing to see. I'm sorry. I really thought this video would be more entertaining. Okay guys, I have finished part 2. I've made both. You guys ready for the reveal? I have to laugh. The color's not helping. Like, what is this supposed to be? It's small, cute, and often seen in pairs. Well, it was fine making these. It told you to stuff it after, like, finishing all the rounds when it was way too small to stuff, so I stuffed it earlier. They just look like doo-doo. For the assembly, attach part 2 pieces symmetrically to part 1. That does not help because it doesn't say in which orientation or, like, on which stitch. Like, it's giving me the same amount of specification as it has for the previous patterns, but because this is a mystery pattern, I need more precise instructions on how to assemble this because I don't know what it is. Like for the bear, if you just say like, put the ears on the top of the side of the head, I'm gonna know where to put the ears because they're ears. You want the middle part facing this way or like this way, or like, I don't know whether you want, I mean, it also says if you want to add small extra detail, chain 6, then slip stitch back along the chain for a tiny dangling piece. I'm gonna try and assemble this. I will do a grand reveal in the review section. I guess I'll meet you guys there. Okay guys, the time we've all been waiting for. I am gonna do a grand reveal of the 3 projects that I've made using patterns generated by ChatGPT. Now the first one you've already seen, it was the granny square. I didn't end up making any more rows. I've already wasted so much yarn for the other 2 projects for this video, so I just want to be mindful. So I will be unraveling this and using the yarn for something else. As expected, I am quite happy with how this turned out. My main complaint is the slip stitching at the start of every round. The round ends at the end of one of the spaces, so I don't know why the next round has to start at the next corner. To the untrained eye, you can't really see the slip stitching, especially because of this self-striping yarn, but it bothers me. Also in the end where it kind of tells you how to continue the pattern, it just says increase the number of side clusters as the square grows. It doesn't say continue like steps X to Y, for instance. But overall, was it user-friendly? If I had to say yes or no, I would say yes. It does make sense. Again, I would have liked more clarity. For instance, the corner spaces, it just says chain to corner space, but that's something that I would specify that you're working into the actual hole rather than the chains itself. When I was a beginner crocheter, I would always work into the chains because I didn't know what it meant. Like, I didn't understand that you could just work your hook into the actual, like, spaces. Same for when it says chain 1 space. Does the project look good? Yeah, granny square I would say is a success. I would rate this a 7 out of 10. So next up we had the amigurumi bear. You ready? Ta-da! It is wonky because I'm not very good at sewing things. That's not ChatGPT's fault. I also forgot to stuff this second arm. I have mixed feelings about this bear. It is cute. It's just not a very interesting or inspiring pattern, and I think a human would have been able to give it, I don't know, some more character. Maybe it has a beer belly or a hunchback, not just this, because you could take this and turn it into any animal. I could give this pointier ears and then it would be a cat. I could give it longer ears and then it would be a rabbit. The steps are just making different variations of spheres, so it's not a very fun or enjoyable process either, and there's so much sewing, some of which I think was redundant. Also, I realized that I misread this pattern. I thought it said to embroider a nose on the muzzle. It actually says stitch a smile under the nose. I don't know whether that's implying that you should embroider a nose in addition to the smile, or whether the snout is the nose. If I had just done a smile without the nose, I think that would have looked quite cursed, honestly. And like I've said many times, I don't like that the body is smaller than the head. It's probably a stylistic choice, but to me it just comes off as very like AI, very uncoordinated, especially because the steps for the head and the body were all over the place. I was able to find a compromise, but like I shouldn't have to if I'm following a pattern. So is it user-friendly? There weren't errors in the instructions themselves. Some of the instructions, again, could be clearer, but overall it did make sense and I was able to make a coherent project. And finally, does the project look good? I mean, yeah, you'd be able to identify it as a bear. I would say that this one is a success. An overall rating, 4 out of 10. Okay. The one we've all been waiting for, the mystery crochet pattern. Are you ready? I don't know what to say. I mean, it looks kind of like a uterus or like, I don't know, a Mickey Mouse or a turnip. I kind of just put the part 2 bits on either side of it because it said symmetrical. I don't know, I guess I just wanted to put it on the same like axis as well. The color choice on my part was a poor decision. Was it user-friendly? I'm gonna say no. It was the same level of detail as the previous 2 patterns, but because it's like a wildcard mystery pattern, I would have hoped that ChatGPT gives me more clarification on where to at least attach the parts, and that just wasn't the case. Should I embroider a face on this? I'm gonna quickly embroider a face. Okay. Does the project look good? No. Because it made me laugh, I am gonna give it some points, but I'm gonna rate this 2 out of 10. This is just garbage. It's going back in my scraps. As for this teddy bear, I think I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna use it as a reminder of the blasphemy I've committed today against the crochet community. Let me know in the comments what I should name him. I actually think my boyfriend might like this because he gets emotionally attached to inanimate objects very easily. He might even like the brown dookie that I made. That mystery pattern was an absolute disappointment. But for the first two, it pretty much met my expectations. I knew the granny square pattern was going to be fairly coherent and decent, but I still let it get my hopes up. And then the teddy bear kind of brought that down, even though I did expect the teddy bear to look like that. You guys may be thinking, Lucy, if you've never used AI for crochet, how did you expect the teddy bear to be a bunch of spheres? I don't use AI, but I do use Etsy a lot. I have come across a lot of suspiciously similar amigurumi animal patterns. And let's just say I don't think the seller was particularly passionate, nor are they a very bright individual. I was suspicious that they were made of AI, and this has just confirmed my suspicions. I was impressed at the start when I was writing the prompts and I was seeing the responses generate and it looked like actual patterns, but when you look closely and you see all these errors and inconsistencies, in the end it was not impressive whatsoever. I think you do need to be at an intermediate level in order for the patterns to work, because you will encounter errors and you're gonna have to troubleshoot with your own crochet knowledge. I don't think I will be doing this again, ever. Honestly, my curiosity is killing me. I need to know what the frick that final mystery pattern was. That's all for this video. If you guys want to know what the mystery pattern was, please tune in for next week's video where I'm going to reveal it. I really encourage you guys to avoid AI use wherever possible and continue supporting real artists. Making a pattern takes a lot of trial and error, a lot of time. Machines can't crochet, so it doesn't surprise me too much that they can't really do much pattern writing either. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you weren't as disappointed as me. And if you liked it, please consider liking, subscribing, commenting to boost my channel. Hopefully in the future I can create things more entertaining and worth your time, because I don't think ChatGPT is worth anybody's time. I will see you guys later, I guess. Bye. Asked ChatGPT to write me crochet patterns, and then I followed them. I asked it to make me a bear plushie. So do you want to see what it gave me?
Yes. What? That's pretty good, no?
Right?
He's so cute. Can we keep him?
ChatGPT pattern. You like him?
He's so cute. He also kind of looks like Megamind because the head is so big.
Yeah, because it told me to put the eyes on this row.
Oh, it did.
The connection between the head and the body I had to change. It said you can continue the head from the body, but then the head portion of the pattern and the body portion of the pattern started and ended on different numbers. So
so then it was like literally not possible.
Yeah. I also think it's just boring. Like, it's cute, but it's very generic, you know?
Yeah, and like everything's in a weird place. But it's very
That's
cute.
just
like,
me. I'm just bad at sewing.
Oh. Never mind, everything's in the right place. Perfect.
It was pretty much what I expected.
I didn't expect that. I thought it'd be horrible if you asked ChatGPT.
Yeah, at first I was like, it's not gonna give me anything, but I entered the prompts and it gave me like numbers that added up and stuff, and I was like, oh, how would you rate it out of 10?
Oof. I guess if I compare it to the plushies you make, then it's pretty low, but for my expectations, it's pretty high. 5 out of 10.
I gave it a 4.
Okay, that's
so
pretty close.
That's not what I really wanted to show you. You can keep him. Here you go.
Yeah.
I said, write me a mystery pattern, and then I made it, and then I tried to guess what it was.
So I have to guess.
Yeah.
Alright. So funny.
Okay, open your eyes.
Oh my god. Looks like Geodude. No, what? It kind of looks like a cat poop, you know?
That's
like
what I said. That's what I said. I said it looks like Dookie. I did choose the color. But...
So you made it look like Dookie.
I
Looks like a mutated radish, too. No, okay, I have no idea. What is it?
It's supposed to be...
Where's it?
I don't know. It told me to stuff everything lightly, embroider a face, and then like put these two parts like onto this part symmetrically. It said a face.
Oh, right, because you were going along with it. Right, you didn't know.
Yeah, because like for this, I know it was a bear, so when it tells me like like sew on the arms and legs. I know approximately where to put them. But this, I
Right.
didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
How much would you rate this one?
For a -10. It's not.
I
It's
gave it
just
a
a cat dookie. Like.
I gave it a 2 out of 10 because it made me laugh.
Okay. Well.
There they are. Okay.